We're talking with Karl Altau. He's the managing director of the Joint Baltic American National Committee based here in the Washington area. And Karl, thank you for being with us. And looking at your website, I saw that you say very prominently there that a central concern in 2022 was that Russia's war against Ukraine is a serious threat to not only them, but to the West as well. So I'm wondering, can you explain to us what your thoughts are on that?
Oh, sure. Hi, JJ. Um, the threats are just that Russia has proven itself to be a just very, very aggressive in its nature and in its posture. The war this past year from February 2022 has demonstrated to the world that Russia will do what it can to destroy its neighbor, Ukraine. That is a threat to the countries of the region, to the Baltic countries, to other allies in Central and Eastern Europe, but indeed the whole of Europe, and that's a threat for the United States, the instability that this causes.
Yeah, so, by nature, your name is the Joint Baltic American National Committee. You represent clearly the interest of Baltic states here in the U.S. Give us a sense of who your constituents are in name and what those concerns are that you're representing.
Yeah, there is a distinction. We do represent the Baltic American communities, in other words, the Estonian, Latvian, and Lithuanian American communities in the United States. We have been doing so since 1961, so over 60 years of advocacy, a large part for the first 30 years to help those countries regain their independence as advocates here outside, on the other side of the Iron Curtain. And in the last 30 years, a good number of those years, advocating for NATO enlargement for those countries, meaning ensuring that Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania would become members of the transatlantic alliance. And then since then, we have been working on a variety of different issues related to human rights, to helping Ukraine and Ukrainian Americans do what they can to advocate for Ukraine and against this Russian invasion.
Now, I imagine that the concerns of your constituents have taken on added concern, added urgency since this war started. And we've heard several times talk of if Ukraine falls, then so will the rest of Europe and other countries. Is that the legitimate view? Is that for sure, for real?
Well, yes, it's a great concern. If Russia is not stopped, the fear is that they will continue. If you look at history of Russian imperialism over centuries, and also just if you look at 20th century history and up until up through the last year as well, Russia, or the Soviet Union as it was known then, colluding with Nazi Germany in order to carve up Europe, and its claims not only in Ukraine but of occupying over a quarter of the sovereign territory of Georgia, the Republic of Georgia, in Moldova and in other places.
Yeah, so they clearly have a history of doing that, and it's important to make sure that they can't do that again. So what are you doing here in terms of representing these interests? Who are you talking to, and what does your work entail on a regular basis?
Well, it has a lot to do with advocacy, helping educate Congress, working with the administration and with Congress in developing policy, supporting policies or different pieces of legislation, um, but also reaching out to the general U.S. population in in describing the situation in more global terms. I think that people can understand it's not just a local issue; it affects everybody.
All right. So, looking at the war itself, which is the one of the main focuses of your work right now, there's been some reluctance on the part of some Western countries, countries in Europe, to give the resources to Ukraine that Ukraine has been asking for. For instance, there's this big discussion about getting tanks there. Why is that? Why do you believe there is this reluctance, and what's the possible impact of this kind of reluctance?
Well, on one hand, I believe it has to do with historical precedents, that there are countries and individuals that have had relationships with Russia, but they have obligations from earlier days. I think that they're very hesitant to get over. In the case of Germany, seeing everything that Nazi Germany wrought during the Second World War and leading up to the war, they are a completely different country, obviously, than they were back then. So maybe it's a little bit of that, but I would bear in mind also that there are many countries, including the Baltics, that are doing as much as they can to provide equipment and materials to Ukraine. Just read the announcement by the Estonian Foreign Ministry today about donating all of their howitzers to Ukraine, the whole complement. There aren't many, but it is something pretty significant if you think that these would be the same weapons that Estonia would use to defend itself. By defending Ukraine, those countries are defending itself. The Danes have done a lot. We see many countries throughout Europe who are offering up their stores and stockpiles to do that. Some countries a little bit slower than others. Hopefully, Germany will come along and do its part as well, and get over some of the impediments of history.
Karl, before we go, let's talk about Russia. What Russia is, who Russia really is, who we're dealing with, and what we're dealing with. Explain that to us from your perspective.
As somebody whose parents came from Estonia to the United States in the 1950s, I grew up hearing about Russia and the Soviet Union, but what the powers that be in Moscow did to my parents' country and forcing them to flee that country. I can look now and say, and tell anyone that Russia has not changed much since that time. They are bent on domination. Their imperialism continues. They will do what they can to basically wreck and destroy the rule of law, order, civility, human rights in order to achieve their aims. Do we need to push back? Absolutely. So we just need to do what we can, to set this story straight and to work for good against this evil.
Okay, so what are your other objectives and other things on your list of to-do list, should I say, for 2023?
It's all related, but we do have a new Congress here, and it's getting to know the new members of Congress, committees, who is positioning themselves where. and working with like-minded partners in the United States, other Baltic communities, activists, also from the Central and Eastern European community. We do a lot of work together with them, particularly now with the Ukrainian American community, and to keep doing what we can to raise our voices. Now, we've done it in the past. I think if you grew up as a Baltic American of my generation, you did it. You were an advocate from day one, from the time you were born. You were talking about the injustice of what what Soviet Russia wrought upon our old part of the world, and you know, looking to make right.
Exactly. Karl Altau, he is the managing director of the Joint Baltic American National Committee based here in the Washington area. Thank you again, Karl.
Thank you so much, JJ, for this opportunity. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we look forward to talking to you again in the near future about the new elements and new objectives and anything that crosses your desk and, of course, your agenda. So we look forward to that time too as well, Karl. Thank you.
Thanks so much.